So, Sim,
Yes, sir.
you got to look under there. You have a piece of paper and a pen. Do you usually have that at lunch?
Well, you know, I do, because I have a tendency to spill my food, and I don't want people to come down and have to clean up after me. So I bring my own placemat, and it doubles as a notepad as well as on something I can spill my food on.
And a whole plastic regime
That's
usually.
right. Yeah, well, since we're going to be, in front of everybody else, I didn't want to put my bib on and be too so obvious. So I figure I just need to put my placemat on the table. That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being the first at our luncheons, and you're
Absolutely.
a pioneer, as you always are with me.
Well,
we've gone
it's-
off a lot of clips the first time.
That's right. And why not? We're going to get in this little convertible, and we're going to push the accelerator, and we're taking it right off the cliff.
So we were going through names of people to have at our lunch, and frankly, a name that came up a lot was the president.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
But a lot of people don't want to do that. I mean, would you, if we could have him sit there and have a thing, would we take him, or do we not want to hear?
No, I would absolutely love to do that. As a prosecutor who loves to cross-examine, I think I'm all kidding aside. I think it would be great. I think, look, he's still our president, and I think people have an interest. He has a position, and we have an obligation to question, talk, dialogue. And this is what it is. So if you assert, you must prove, and if you defend, then you have to defend.
So if you're in Bismarck, South Dakota, watching us there's the president of the Senate.
That's right.
Hello there.
Absolutely.
If you're in Bismarck, South Dakota, and you just tuned on and you go, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
We're in the cafeteria of the Utah Senate, and we are Facebooking Live. Gill, really the most charismatic, popular politician, well, since Woodrow Wilson.
And wow.
It's just
I've been told I look like Woodrow Wilson, so
So you're building a whole new building. I
we
noticed
are.
that.
Oh,
do we
absolutely.
really need a big new building to put more bureaucrats in? Or what's going on with that?
Well, look, first of all, we're public servants as prosecutors, and this has been something that's been in the work. We're anticipating over the next 20 years almost 1 million more people coming into Salt Lake County. I run the largest district attorney's office, and we really are putting together a footprint for the next 50 years. So we're going to save the taxpayers probably a nice big chunk of change, probably about anywhere from $15 to $20 million over the life of the building by being in our own building.
Because you were renting places before.
That's right. We're
renting,
renting, and you look at the escalator costs and everything else. It's cheaper. Everybody knows. Sometimes in America, it's cheaper to buy your house and make your payment on your than rent in places. So you're getting equity back, and
so it's right there by the Matheson Courthouse.
100 yards away.
So
Perfect.
it's going to be convenient.
It's going to be very convenient for victims, for our prosecutors, for the community. It's going to be fantastic building.
How often in a case is there a Perry Mason moment? How often there at the climax in the closing ceremony or whatever you call that, when the judge is talking to the jury, and suddenly something happens,
the great revelation to break the case right open.
And it changes everything, and the prosecutor goes, "Oh, what a fool I've been," and everybody goes.
A couple of things. First of all, it's not that Perry Mason moments don't happen. They probably happen once in your lifetime, but those are rare, because if you're doing your job, you know what's going on. Surprises happen, but that Perry Mason moment doesn't happen. But remember, in the Perry Mason series, right, the prosecutor always lost, and there was a certain level of subconsciousness at play there. Do you know what the name of the prosecutor was?
Hamilton Berger.
Hamburger for short.
Hamburger.
Sure. Okay. And that's all he was in those series, is Hamburger for Perry Mason. So,
do you remember watching that as a kid? Or were you too young?
I remember watching that as a kid, because my father immigrated here in '69. We came in '71. And my parents used to have all sorts of folks. They were very sociable people. They would have people over for dinner, these dinner parties. And all the kids used to go down. And I remember going down, we would have that black and white TV, and Perry Mason would come on. I remember as a little kid watching those just diligently, loved them.
And you wanted to be a prosecutor anyway.
I wanted to be a prosecutor anyways. I had to go to sort of redeem the profession after what Hamilton Berger did to it. So, that's what we were doing.
So how do you keep prosecutors from being like, how do I say this, who really want to win?
Oh, right.
Who they just it becomes all about winning? Because let's face it, they're competitive. Law school is the most competitive place maybe left on the planet.
Right.
So how do you? Or I assume you don't want prosecutors that always want to win no matter what.
Win or win at all costs.
Yeah.
Look, I've told prosecutors that the measure of justice isn't always getting a conviction. And sometimes it is absolutely doing the right thing. You can get anybody to file criminal charges. It doesn't take a genius or any talent to file criminal charges. It takes a prosecutor to know what charges to file and have the courage to dismiss charges that were wrongfully filed. So it's about delivering justice. It's not about always winning.
So sometimes you charge people with things you think are actually higher than what the person did, so you can negotiate down?
No, because I know that there's always this narrative about overcharging for the purposes of trying to get an advantage.
Wait a minute, sorry to interrupt. But we all know lawyers overcharge, and so to deny that... okay, look.
It's a prop, but I am drinking my water here, so that's what I'm doing.
Sorry, you were making a serious point.
No. I think that first of all, that said, I can tell you certainly for our office, our practice is to charge those offenses that we think are essential to capture the elements of the crime that's been committed. You don't ticky-tack and charge everything. There are certain key charges that you have, and at the end of the day, it's also about working out a disposition where you can know what the true value of the case is and what the measure of justice is. So you don't need to charge 50 counts. Now, having said that, I do remember once a case I charged 52 counts.
That was against me, right?
Well, only 2 were valid, right? So it was 52 counts, and I remember the defense attorney coming up to me, "Really? This is it? 52? You couldn't charge more?" I go, "Well, actually, I could have charged 110. I stopped at 52." I'm not trying to be glib about it, but my point is, it was a series of conduct that I needed to establish, and I needed to communicate the gravity of the offense that was there, and it was appropriate. But I can assure you, at least no prosecutor that I know, that I work with, overcharges for the sake of overcharging. I think the goal is to get a measure of justice.
Let's go to justice, and 2 things pop into my mind when I think of justice. One is Judge Judy, and the second is O.J. Simpson.
Right.
So let's start with O.J.
Yeah.
Almost everybody thinks he was guilty.
Uh-huh.
The jury found him innocent.
Yeah.
And then there was this incident with the Heisman Trophy that he apparently stole back from a friend, or I don't know what it is, but he's going to be in jail for a long time. And it was
also the conduct related to the Heisman Trophy and all the stuff that he did and didn't do within that context.
So when you're a prosecutor and you really think maybe that the guy got off with murder, the tendency has to be, all right, we actually are gonna think about that a little bit if we would have stole the Heisman and forced somebody to show him where it was. I don't remember the circumstances, but the point was he got it for kidnapping and for. Would that have played a part? Let's not talk about you, but let's talk about in the prosecutor's mind.
No, I
Are prosecutors human? I mean,
well, of course, prosecutors are human, and prosecutors make mistakes, and I think it's a constant, vigilant act to make sure what you're doing, what you're there to do, is to make sure you have a level of integrity, a sense of fairness and proportionality. Those are not just academic words; these are things that define what we do. But if the premise of your original question is, here is somebody who was charged with allegations of criminal wrongdoing, but the jury process acquitted him, am I going to take that into my account when I file my charges? I think that would absolutely be unethical to do that, because people may not like the outcomes. There are many times I may not like the outcome, but I trust the integrity of the process, and I have to believe that even when the outcome is against me, that the process yielded a result that has a certain level of
legitimacy. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the process falls apart. But innocent people go to jail and guilty people go free.
That's right. And then there are, but as a prosecutor, I don't get to say whether somebody is guilty I don't make that judgment. A jury makes that judgment. My responsibility is to say, the best way I can explain it is this way. You get to either play in the light, or you play in the dark. And there are a lot of people who play in the gray zone. And if I have probable cause, I don't say whether that person belongs in the dark there or their conduct is in there. I say that you bring it to a jury, and a jury said, and I say, you help me figure out, do they belong in the light or do they belong in the dark?
Speaking of juries, like I read all these books and I watch these television serials, and apparently there's a whole industry in doing research on jurors.
Jury
and
panels,
so
and yeah.
when you get there, you know this guy's got a drinking problem, or that his sister was killed by falling
You're
salt
talking about the
from
plot
pollution.
from Runaway Jury, right?
Yeah, all of that. John Grisham.
Yeah.
So, does that really happen on either side? And do you guys have jury sniffers
Specialists.
or whatever they call it? Yeah,
Jury
specialists. Yeah.
First of all, remember, poetic license, Hollywood, big budget, big cases. I'm sure if there's millions and millions of dollars in play, people are doing that. Down at the level of what we do, and we're not a small office. I have an office of almost 300 people and almost 130 lawyers, but what we do is, it really comes down to your experience. We don't have jury specialists. We don't have some, you question them. You want to make sure that they can be impartial, they can be fair.
But that's the lawyer.
That's
judge.
the lawyer.
You don't have like a special psychic or anything that can go in?
No. We can't afford psychics in Salt Lake County. I know that there are some other surrounding counties that have the luxury, but not in
Utah
Salt Lake
County. I hear that's all they have is psychics down
there. That's right. That soothsaying is a lost art.
Now your office is in the county building on 21st South.
Actually, I have several offices. I have an office at the city prosecutor, because I'm also the Salt Lake City prosecutor as well as being the district attorney, out of our interlocal agreement. So
okay, well, good. You're in a good position. So what's the latest gossip on McAdams and on Mayor Biskupski? What are you hearing around town?
Well, I think they just need to get together and eat lunch more often, like we're doing here. Maybe even do a little Facebook thing together. I think that brings a lot of good feelings together. And,
so the legislature last session, criminal justice reform, we changed the laws and we took a lot of things that had been felonies,
let's talk about that,
and turned them into misdemeanors. The idea, I voted for it. It's good, because a lot of kids, for example, were being charged with felonies, and the rest of their life, because it's hard to expunge things, they had this felony and they were stupid, and they had a drug problem or something. So the whole idea was, we're gonna be a little lenient, and we're gonna be a little more lenient. What they were really thinking is, we're building a new prison and we're trying to save money, so we want to get the jail populations down or the prison population. That was part of it. But the other half of this was, we're also going to throw a lot of money into programs to help people get off of drugs and with mental illness, and we as a state, we're going to do that. And that's what we heard from the speaker and the president. On the streets now, cops are telling me we can't arrest people in Salt Lake City for taking drugs.
So here's the very simple thing. Great question, big issue. So let me break it down this way. Good intention, bad funding. Okay? Good intentions, no funding equals a failure in the model. I've been a big advocate for therapeutic justice for 20 years. The idea is great. If we can get treatment to people, we can get them into treatment. There are a certain category of offenses where you've got mental illness, substance abuse, other issues, and we can help those individuals out. We can transition them out of the criminal justice system. But the premise has always been, Jim, the reason we're reducing those beds is for two reasons. One is cost efficient and it's the right thing to do, but more fundamentally, it is also about the idea of making sure that we have enough space for those who are a risk to our community. So here's what we did. We passed this legislation with a lot of promise.
The legislature
did, but we didn't properly fund the treatment or the probationary component. This is the equivalent to, and so we say, look, we want to do a risk need assessment to find out where you fit in, how risky your behavior is, what your need is, and we'll get your treatment. This is akin to somebody coming up to going to the Huntsman Cancer Institute, and somebody comes, the doctor says, Jim, I'm so glad that you came by here because we've done the assessment, and you've got really aggressive form of stage 4 cancer. And then there's a pause, and they go, good luck with that. Okay, you as a person want to say, okay, now what do I do? Where's the treatment? What do I have to do? And that's the piece that we have been missing. The other thing is, we have focused so much on trying to reduce our jail and prison beds, and we have focused on that we're starting to push that down to the counties as an unfunded mandate. They're taking on a bigger burden, and they're also pushing out violent offenders. So I don't have enough room at the jail because I don't have the treatment dollars.
I hear people blaming the sheriff.
Absolutely wrong to blame the sheriff.
It's wrong to blame the sheriff. Look, let me explain this to you, because we're supposed to be having lunch, just us, right? And they're eavesdropping. But I just want to say this because it's important. By the way, is it working, guys? There's actually...
Would you call this a form of political voyeurism right here?
I would.
Or social voyeurism?
Is that legal in Utah?
Well, I think it is.
Don't let Senator Weiler know.
We do have our clothes on, so
By the way, this was clearly the worst sandwich I've ever eaten. It's just disgusting. But I brought it from home.
So that was the food critic part of our episode here, because every time, what's the point of us eating food if you actually don't make a social commentary on that? So I'm glad that Jim actually has done that.
Okay, well, we could go all crazy on it. I'm just saying what's happening now is a crisis.
It is.
And I heard I think it was the chief of police for Salt Lake said to me, Senator, Colorado legalized marijuana. In effect, Salt Lake City legalized every drug use right now. Heroin, meth, everything is...
Let me give you the scary part here.
Yeah.
I've said that when we did the decriminalization and the JRI, we bought ourselves between 18 to 36 months. So what we did is we took heroin and other strong drugs, and we said they should be Class A misdemeanors because we didn't want people to be convicted.
That's USAH, right?
In Utah, and we didn't want it to be a felony charge on you. It became a misdemeanor. It didn't send people to drug treatment, and we didn't provide the treatment support that was necessary. So now you have people commit 2 Class A misdemeanors before it becomes a third-degree felony. But if you're not providing treatment to those Class A misdemeanor, what we've done is we made the tub bigger, and we're filling the tub up, and then with enough time, in 36 months, the epidemic issue of the felony prosecution is going to catch up with us. But in the process, I have somebody now having committed 2 additional offenses, no treatment, and no therapeutic justice in science. It's a colossal
It's the legislature.
Failure. It's a failure.
We changed this. The promise was more money so that these people would get picked up on a misdemeanor and they get sent to either mental health help or to treatment for drug. So we declined the felony, or we turned the felonies down to misdemeanors, and we didn't provide any treatment money.
Right.
It's a horrendous situation.
That's right.
Now.
That's right. It's like saying here's a beautiful car, go on a wonderful trip, but you can't have tires and you can't have any gas in it. So enjoy the trip.
We're going to wrap up with this. As you know, Orrin Hatch is probably running for re-election. Maybe John Huntsman is running against him, and I think Sim has on that area has a big announcement to make now. Did you want to do it now?
Well, I'm more than happy to do it. I love Orrin Hatch. I think he's been served our community well. But actually, I was in, I think, 8th grade when Orrin Hatch ran for Senate at that time. And I remember as an 8th grader, he said that the previous senator had been there too long, and he was Frank Moss. And I appreciate Senator Hatch's service, but I think it's time for him to pass the mantle on. And I think you were going to make announcement.
Okay, next time we've got the lieutenant governor coming. We got a big guest coming next time. And John Dougal, who's our state auditor. And, we're trying to get Trump. And I'm going to get Gail Ruzicka in this chair because she's always fun.
Maybe we can tweet. Because I know our president is a big Twitter person, and
our president is a big.
Our president is a big Twitter person, and so we can tweet and maybe invite him to be here.
I was supposed to take tweets from people. Okay, next time. This is our first show, so we're a little around.
We're still getting.
Yeah, we're still.
You need to understand the reason I was happy to do this because he needed to test all his material to make sure he doesn't make the same mistakes in the next one that he does. So it's happy to be here.
Sim Gill is the Salt Lake
County
District Attorney. Right? It's not a county attorney.
It's the
only
Salt
in
Lake County.
yours.
Yeah, Salt Lake County District Attorney, as well as the Chief City Prosecutor for Salt Lake.
Just an amazing man. Someday we'll talk about. He's he's actually Canadian.
Who knew? Who knew?
Okay, India, from India. All right, we don't know how to end this because it's the first one, but we'll just say thanks to everybody on the staff for making this possible. We're going to be doing this very, very regularly, so save a sandwich for us.
That's right. Ciao.